Hello, everyone. So glad you're here to watch this video. And if you are here to watch this video about mentor text for writing instruction, then you must be on your way to transforming your writing instruction. And I'm so happy to be able to be here to help you. So this video is for teachers all the way from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. I will discuss a few different types of mentor text, but more importantly, just how you are to use them in your classroom for your writing. So you want to, for the most part, and I will explain why I say that in a second, use a very high quality piece of literature. And it's because you're going to be showing the students some great craft moves and ways of writing that are going to be great examples for them. But my caveat there is that student work is also something you can use for a mentor text, and it can be very effective so that students can see exactly what they are capable of doing and how other students in their grade have done so before. So if you have any work from previous students where you can kind of cut up a name and use that as it could be an exemplar piece, and being able to teach what you want to teach for your mini lesson. So what you're able to use for a mentor text can be any type of writing. It can be a picture book, which we're going to talk about from one today. It could be a chapter book. I also have a collection of stories from Sandra Cisneros here that I'm going to talk about just a little bit. But it can also be an article. It could be a letter, an essay, literary essay. It could be a speech, a poem. Anything can be used for a mentor text. I know that many of you use different online sites to be able to pull articles and things like that. So you should have lots of things to look for. And then if you do read alouds in your classroom, then you will have plenty of books from which to choose so that you can have a mentor text to teach your mini lesson. So what you want to do is, first of all, you might be able to think when you are about to teach a lesson in writing, you might think of a book that would be great for showing something to your students. But what you can do is go through a book that you have read or a book that you would like to use and try to just see what you notice. Now, if I go through this book, Dreamers, which is an amazing book, by the way, I'm just going to find all kinds of things. And it's just a beautiful book. So I'd probably get stuck reading it again. But what the two things that I noticed here are author's word choice and the step-by-step storytelling. So like for a narrative story. So you might think of author's word choice. This could be used for any grade level, but I'm going to think more like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and it could be up. You can certainly use a picture book for intermediate grades, for sure. And then the storytelling and bit by bit really depends on how far your students are in the idea of small moments, but I'm thinking maybe 1st grade for this book, but that idea could certainly be 1st grade, 2nd grade. It could even be kindergarten, 3rd grade too. Okay, so there are the two things that I really wanted to talk about, like I said, were word choice and then the step-by-step. So as I read the first couple of pages and I talk about word choice, you'll also start to hear what I'm hearing for the step-by-step part. And so what I would do is this book would have been read ahead of time to my students. And that's because I want them to be able to have the chance to enjoy the story without worrying about me stopping and teaching something, and also just to be able to comprehend the story. So if you use this for a read aloud already, then you're good to go. Then I would just be able to jump into the portion of the book that I want to use for my teaching point. But I'm going to show you 2 today, but it wouldn't be 2 at one time. Now, I can show more than one page to explain my teaching point. I just don't want to mix 2 teaching points in one lesson. So first, I'm going to talk about the author's word choice. Okay. So I might, when I get to my teaching point and I tell them what we're going to be talking about today, I would say, okay, so let's take a look in our book Dreamers and see what I can find for author's word choice. So here they're talking about leaving their home and going somewhere else. So it says, one day we bundled gifts in our backpack and crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. So right there, author's word choice. She could have said a really long bridge, and that's what I would say to my students. But instead, she wanted to give us this feeling of this bridge seeming so long, because it's really the feeling for them of leaving their home and going somewhere so new. So instead of saying and crossed a bridge that was really long, she said crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. And all of a sudden I picture this huge bridge because the universe is so big. So that is a great example of how the author chose a very specific word to give you a specific feeling in the story. Let's look at another way that the author chose some different words that you might not think about using. And when we made it to the other side, thirsty in all, unable to go back, we became immigrants. So this is another example of word choice, because even though immigrants might be the word that you would think of using, she also decided to, instead of just say, we got to the other side and we couldn't go back and we were immigrants, she really chose to use words that are going to just give us a quick little insight as to how they were feeling. Thirsty. That's just a simple thing, right? We were thirsty and in awe, in wonderment of where they were and what they saw. Unable to go back, we became immigrants. So again, the word choice is just so specific and effective in giving us an idea of how they were feeling in their story. Okay, so I'm just going to switch and talk a little bit about the step-by-step and how they really laid out the story. And so if you remember here, we bundled our gifts in our backpack and crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. That's one part. And then they turned the page, and on this page, and when we made it to the other side, thirsty in awe, unable to go back, we became immigrants. And it's really separated and just very purposefully done so that we think about them leaving and now we think about them getting there and they're immigrants. And then on the next page, migrantes, you and I, the sky and the land welcomed us in words unlike those of our ancestors. So again, this step by step, just one thing at a time. And this is really helpful for students who, tell their stories very short, but in kind of a run-on on all the things that happen, to be able to divide it up and show them how the author is so aware of being able of doing that. This, by the way, is another word choice, which is amazing. The sky and the land welcomed us in words unlike those of our ancestors. So she didn't say in words we couldn't understand. She said in words unlike those of our ancestors. So that's another way. So I did 2 teaching points there just to kind of show you how it would go, but you would only do one of those, but you can show several different places where that would be happening to help. Okay, I wanted to do so this Legends. It's a book I really thought my son would really like to read because he adores and loves baseball. But he hasn't read it yet. So we'll see. Hopefully soon. It'll be put it on his summer reading list. But when I was looking through this book to be able to see how much he would like it, I noticed something that could be a good craft of writing strategy that you could teach students. So on this page, now again, this would be something you would want to use as a read aloud where, perhaps you're reading like a chapter a day or something like that. Even if you used it a while ago, you could still come back and say, okay, I went ahead to this chapter. This was where he so-and-so, and explain it a little bit. But what I noticed in this paragraph is that he really had the author, I'm assuming it is a he, used repetition in the patterns of the sentences that I thought was really effective. So even though he was a confident player, Henry had, in his own way, always felt overshadowed within the world of baseball. He was a great hitter, but Willie Mays was flashier. He was a solid right fielder, but everyone in baseball raved about the rocket arm of Roberto Clemente. Mickey Mantle was with the mighty Yankees, and he played in New York, the big media capital. So just in those sentences there where it says he was a great hitter, he was a solid right fielder, so just that is an example of how repetition is used in writing. Okay, so that's just one little piece there that I could show. And then I could also go and do some modeled writing and show it, or I could find another spot where it is in the book, or one more book that has it as well. You could always do that. The last one I wanted to show, just to kind of give a different teaching strategy, again, Sandra Cisneros, The House on Mango Street. There's a great collection of stories here. And first of all, the first story and the last story are very similar in the way they begin. But I wanted to talk about the ending of this story. So these are great because they're nice short stories. They're great to use in the intermediate grades because they have a lot in them. they're jam-packed with things, but they're really quick. And so it's easy to read through them as a read aloud and then also be able to use them as a mentor text. So at the end of this story, the beginnings are great too, but I'm just going to read the ending here. She talks about one day leaving the house, and she says, so this is 2 little paragraphs. Friends and neighbors will say, what happened to that Esperanza? Where did she go with all those books and paper? Why did she march so far away? They will not know I have gone away to come back. For the ones I left behind, for the ones who cannot out. And she had talked about out before and how that's the leaving and getting out of this place where they lived. It was a poorer area. So that ending was just really impactful. I mean, it's just short and sweet. They will not know I have gone away to come back. For the ones I left behind, for the ones who cannot out. And then you can kind of talk about that a little bit. So those are just a few examples of how mentor texts are used. And I hope it was a great way to get you started in what you can use for a mentor text and then how to use that. I also wanted to tell you about a video that you could watch with Kate Roberts. She's an amazing instructor. She was with the Teachers College Reading and Writing Project, and now she's out on her own. But if you go onto Vimeo.com, Vimeo, there's a video from the Teachers College. So you can even just do the initials TCRWP, Teachers College Reading and Writing Project, and search there. Or you can put in teaching students to examine craft moves. Teaching students to examine craft moods, and you will see a video. So she is using a persuasive essay, and they're doing kind of an inquiry. So they do talk about a lot of different things, but I just wanted to show you how she's using this piece of writing as a mentor text. It's a great video to watch, and she's just a wonderful instructor. So you would pick up a lot of things from her as well. So if you liked this video and found it helpful, please comment, like, share. And again, you can always join me on Facebook, Teaching to Transform. There's a writing group there, Transform Writing K through 8, and as well as on Instagram at Teaching to Transform.